Stan Gibilisco here. I would just like to reiterate the two antennas that I have used to communicate from my vehicle, big number 8. On the left we have the active tuning antenna system, and on the right we have the W1GV design. The active tuning antenna system basically comprises a vertical whip, probably about 3 feet long, with what appears to be a variable inductor, which automatically tunes through the coaxial cable to the radio right here. This is the radio R. There's the feed point, and this whole lower part here is enclosed in a cylinder. As you might have guessed, I'm practicing a little bit. I've got Windows Journal here running on a brand new tablet PC, which I have acquired for the very purpose of making videos like this. But I'm still a little bit skittish about bogus responses on the screen. And this is a very nice little tablet PC, though. It seems to run everything so far so good. There's the active tuning antenna system. It's tuned so that we get a 1-to-1 SWR on all bands, 70 centimeters down to 40 meters. This thing will tune mechanically. I took that off the vehicle today, though, and used only my design, which is a taller antenna. The overall height here is about 5 feet, whereas the overall height of my design is 8 feet, but it is directly fed by the coax at the base, so the entire 8 feet radiates as a bona fide radiating element. So the radiation resistance in this system is going to be higher, which inevitably will translate into improved efficiency given a constant loss in the ground system. The only ground is to the vehicle itself, right at the feed point of the antenna in both cases. Then we have this length of coax. This length here of coax is about 10 feet. This length here is about 13 feet. This is naturally resonant at 28 megahertz, so it has a perfectly, about close to a 1.2 to 1 or so SWR on 28 megahertz, but quite high on the other bands, but it's a relatively short length of cable. And we have the Transmatch Palstar AT500 and the radio, the Yaesu FT857D, in both cases running 30 watts output. On the way down to Rapid City today to purchase this tablet PC, it's a Microsoft Surface Pro 2, which they recommended, and so far so good. We're doing all right so far, so pray for me, will you? You can see that from the quality. Well, it'll get better. It'll get better. But hopefully this will inform you as to what I'm doing here right now. I communicated on 28 megahertz with a station in France on the way down to Rapid City today. And then I communicated on 24 megahertz. Oops. See, now that's what I mean. These bogus responses. I've got to learn what causes them and how to avoid them. But you'll bear with me, won't you? You're learning something yourself here. 24 megahertz. Talk to another station in France. It was force-fed with the Transmatch on 24 megahertz and directly fed on 28 megahertz, so I could use the switch in the Palstar kind of like a band switch. 2-band antenna then, without having to retune anything, as long as one of the frequencies is 28 megahertz. Well, here's the rub. Here's the glitch. I have that radio seat belted into place to keep it from flying around. And when I went to manipulate the CW key to put it into position, it got tangled up in the seatbelt strap, so I pulled over on an exit and put on the hazard lights and redid that seatbelt and redid that radio and the passenger seat there, which you've seen in other videos in this sequence. And lo and behold, wouldn't you know it, right at my window there was a trooper, South Dakota State Trooper. And the guy said, "You all right?" And I said, "Oh, I'm fine. I'm just having to reconfigure this seat-belted radio." And he sees all this stuff in there. Doesn't bat an eye. He said, "Okay, well..." And then I asked him, if I'm operating this radio when the vehicle is in motion, is that legal? Because I know there's a law about texting and driving. And he said, well, the law hasn't actually been signed into law yet. It's a waiting signature, but it hasn't actually taken effect yet. But he didn't know. He said, "I don't have a clue." He's a real nice guy. I mean, you know, if you're nice to cops, they'll be nice to you. I mean, they are human, you know. So I guess I'll have to call my representative, my local state representative, and ask him, "You gonna make an exception for ham radio here?" You always want to check, you know. Exception for ham radio. Some states do have it. I believe Illinois has it. A specific exception for ham radio operation, so that you can use your ham radio legally while the vehicle is in motion. Well, you might, everybody who watches this video ought to check with their state legislatures and find out the status of these kinds of laws, because if you don't make noise now, later you very well may wish you had. With that, Stan Gibilisco, W1GV, Whiskey 1 Good Vibrations. Signing off, 73, whoops, there we go again. There we go again. 73, what is up with that? Oh, I'll figure it out. So long.